Good evening, Evan. Yes, neighbors in this area are very concerned. They want the standoff to end peacefully, and so do police. In fact, police say they will stay out here despite the heat for as long as it takes in order for that to happen. The governor says he has no symptoms of COVID-19. He says it was a routine test. That last voter left again about 20 minutes ago, and she said she waited in line for about 2 hours, and she hardly waited the longest. Earlier tonight, there was a line that came out of the middle school. It stretched down the sidewalk behind me about a quarter of a mile. Their message is loud and clear. After a difficult year, they say the restaurant industry needs help, and they hope the lawmakers in session at the Capitol today can give the industry a slice of the $1.3 billion remaining CARES Act money.
We cannot survive any additional restrictions.
During our one-on-one with the vice president, we asked him if he agrees with the new order in Pennsylvania requiring residents to wear a mask if they can't be socially distant from other people. Here's what he had to say.
Well, I think Americans should wear a mask anytime that state and local authorities determine it's appropriate.
From the food all throughout this room to the wine and the beer to even the performer on stage right now, The Roots. It's all about showcasing what the Commonwealth has to offer. 865 people have tested positive for COVID-19 here in Lancaster County, but only 1% of the county's population has actually been tested.
It is not time to let up.
34-year-old Gusto Smoker of Lancaster County is facing charges in connection to the disappearance of Linda Stoltzfus. While authorities have recovered some articles of clothing believed to belong to Linda, the prayers and search continues as her whereabouts remain unknown. Behind the rally inside the Capitol, lawmakers are negotiating the Pennsylvania budget right now. And representatives at the rally hope that legislation is passed to give grants and money to counties to help the restaurants that are struggling. In Harrisburg, Grace Griffaton, Fox 43 News. "12-year-old Maxwell Schallenberger of Lebanon County, 14-year-old Gracie Packer of Bucks County, 9-year-old Jared Tutko of Dauphin County. The children, police say, killed by the people who should have loved them the most.
Being a hardened Marine that I am, that just rips, and a granddad and a parent, that just rips me apart, and I'm so sorry.
Representative Frank Ryan didn't know Schallenberger personally, though the 12-year-old's horrific death more than 1 year ago still leaves the Lebanon County lawmaker unsettled.
I did not, but the case, I'm sorry about that.
Police say Schallenberger's parents starved the boy, neglected him, and left him in a dark room in their Annville Township home, alone with no escape.
I just keep thinking that he was so close to a school hearing children play while he was being abused. I just can't conceivably fathom.
Soon after, and just 3 miles from Schallenberger's house, prosecutors filed 20 felony charges against Stephanie and Robert Duncan of North Annville Township. The couple accused of physically punishing their 5 adopted children, depriving them of food, water, heat, and bathroom privileges. Thankfully, law enforcement say they survived.
You have a mom and a dad who are the 2 people in this world that are supposed to give unconditional love and support and warmth. And instead, they've been the exact opposite. They were the daily tormentors. They were the providers of horrific violent abuse.
My wife called, and a neighbor up the street, she called on them.
If that's the case, how come the children weren't removed from the home? Child advocates say it's not that simple.
Yeah, well, it is a very complex system.
John Rubin is the Deputy Secretary for the Pennsylvania Office of Children, Youth, and Families.
Our children and youth caseworkers do not have the authority to remove a child from the home or to keep a child from their homes. That's kidnapping, the same as it would be for anybody else.
When families refuse access to their homes.
The only real leverage we have, for lack of a better word, authority we'd have, would be to file a court order.
Can families hide what they're doing?
Can a family fool us? It can happen, right? Can they clean up the house before we come? And then if we have that inkling that just something doesn't feel right, can we go out unannounced? Yes.
Caseworkers can file petitions of the court, though they don't like to. Removal is typically seen as the last resort.
Really, we are looking for imminent danger to a child.
That could be severe sexual, physical, or mental abuse.
Do people just kind of slip through the cracks?
Our agency is only as good as the information that we're provided.
It's critical people provide as much information as possible when it comes to suspected abuse or neglect.
By calling us, we will go out and do an assessment the response will be equivalent to what the allegations are. Our goal at the end of the day is to really help and support and strengthen families. It is not to take children away. It is not to be punitive. That happens sometimes, as we talked about, when necessary to protect the child. But our really goal is to go out and help children.
Grace Griffaton, Fox 43 News. Singing, praying, and urging the state legislature to have all funding for PA public schools go through the fair funding formula.
I want everyone to prosper. That's right. That's right. But I want the people who are most disadvantaged to have a fair start at the game of life.
Faith leaders, parents, and even the superintendent of the school district of Lancaster.
I took this job partly because I identified with these kids, right? I was a poor kid. Sometimes, we had just rice for dinner. It was by the grace of God that I somehow made it out.
Staking out in front of Senator Scott Martin's office in Strasburg, Lancaster County.
It was wonderful to see our girls be a part of this. This is their future and the future after them. And
before filing inside one by one to encourage the leader of the Senate's Education Committee to do the same.
I think it's really important that the senator knows that this matters and to support fair funding 100%.
Senator Martin, who is in session at the Capitol, says he does support fair funding, as it would benefit most schools in Lancaster County.
We're protesting someone who absolutely supports all the money going through the fair funding formula.
What Senator Martin says he doesn't support is the $1 billion increase for basic education funding proposed by Governor Wolf, and support for what is known as Hold Harmless,
which is basically the overpayment to schools that have lost population or lost enrollment over the years. He's also proposed a 46% increase in the personal income tax. And that personal income tax isn't just on individuals, because over 1 million small mom and pop businesses in Pennsylvania file under the same mechanism.
Last year, only 11%, or about $700 million of state funding ran through the fair funding formula. Meaning 89%, or $5.5 billion, supporters say was dispersed using enrollment data from 30 years ago, leading some districts to make difficult decisions based on the funding they say they don't have.
So we often have to triage. Do I spend money on buses, or do I spend money on after-school programs?
In Lancaster County, Grace Griffaton, Fox 43 News. Earlier tonight, the line stretched outside of the school. It went down the sidewalk about a quarter of a mile. Some people say they waited close to 4 hours, and their neighbors waited even longer than that to cast their ballot. And again, there are still some people inside.
We got here around 4 o'clock, so about 3.5 hours so far.
3 hours and 55 minutes I was in line.
And those are just some of the people who waited in line to vote at Northeastern Middle School in East Manchester Township, York County. Some say their neighbors waited longer during the afternoon.
So this is the 4th time I'm back to try to make a vote. So
you just saw how
the lines were long, and this was the best it's been all day.
Oh, we've been talking, meeting our neighbors and stuff. Oh, we had a kind neighbor there. My wife got cold. She lent her an extra jacket to keep warm. Really nice. Everybody kept bringing food, pizza, and water down to keep everybody spirits and good.
Countless pizza boxes for the hundreds of people, many wondering why there was only one place to cast a vote in East Manchester Township.
There's no reason that anybody has to wait 4 hours to vote. Our township has grown and grown over the years. So we need to have more than one precinct, maybe 3 precincts, at least 2, at least every 4 years, so that we don't have to stand for 4 hours and wait to vote.
Honestly, I really didn't want to come, but our kids at home actually that was the big motivator. We have a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, and an 8-year-old, and they were like, "You have to go vote, you have to go vote."
Some say it's the exact reason why they hope to request a mail-in ballot next presidential election.
My wife did a mail-in ballot. And when I told her I was in line, it was probably going to be 4 hours, she said, "I told you should have used a mail-in ballot."
Oh, she told me I told you so.
She did, and she was right.
Now, officials say that there were 3 reasons for the long lines here tonight. One, they say they had to abide by COVID-19 health guidelines, which limit the number of people that could be inside the school here. They say poll workers also had to work with a lot of voters who came here tonight with a mail-in ballot but wanted to vote in person. And finally, they say this is just a presidential election that so many people are interested in, and that is why there was such a large turnout. Still, many of the people we spoke with tonight hope that there is change, because they say there is no reason that they should be waiting for 4 hours to cast a vote. In East Manchester Township, York County, Grace Griffaton, Fox 43 News. Yeah, that man, Larry McFadden, tells us he had no idea what his grandson was capable of.
It's terrible, obviously. I had no idea.
With a middle finger raised and nothing to say to reporters, the man state troopers are calling an animal is taken to Franklin County Prison.
The community affected by the cowardless actions can rest easy knowing that this animal is in custody.
That's 20-year-old Thomas DeWald, the man charged with kidnapping a 4-year-old girl from her home in the middle of the night. Investigators say DeWald took the girl to his grandparents' house on Harbaugh Church Road, where he bound her with tape and locked her inside a wooden chest. They say the victim somehow escaped, but we don't know much more than that. According to court documents, DeWald faces a host of charges, including indecent assault.
It's pretty hard to deal with, obviously. I don't know the son or the grandson that you're describing, obviously.
That's Larry McFadden, DeWald's grandfather.
Grandson I knew was expecting to be starting his career. And he's a very religious boy, and at least I thought he was, and he's very intelligent. That's the hard thing to accept, because this certainly isn't intelligent. But being put away to jail probably the rest of his life would be my guess.
Investigators also say DeWald searched the neighborhood looking for kids playing in their yards and for homes with no video surveillance.
It was just It was dread.
DeWald apparently targeted Tom Lambert and his family. Investigators say DeWald got inside their home through a window, watching Lambert's 3 children sleeping in their beds, but took off when he heard the family's dog barking.
My worldview shattered, and not any political worldview or not any sociological worldview, but ideologically, my perception of the world has changed now. You know. I have to be still the encourager. I have to be still the field without fences to some degree to my kids. But in the same regard, now I also have to be vigilant within that arena, and that's very depressing.
Tom addressing the camera with a solemn message for the man who's changed the way he looks at the world.
Whatever made you what you are, I'm genuinely sorry for that. But wherever you are, I would really appreciate it if you stayed as far away from my family and our community for as long as humanly possible.
Authorities tell Fox 43 they're tracking down where DeWald may have been prior to being here in Franklin County, and that there's always the possibility there could be other victims.
How you like that? I thought so.
It's a bond most people will not understand.
Tickling you, huh?
A little tough love between a Newberry Township man and his reptile. But make no mistake, this alligator isn't Joey Henny's pet.
He's not allowed to be my pet no more because he is my licensed emotional support animal.
Henny even has the card to prove it, saying Wally helps battle his depression.
He's affectionate, he's loving. He loves to cuddle. He loves giving hugs.
He apparently even loves cozying up next to complete strangers. Henny has given Wally a home, with his very own pond and even the company of 2 other alligators that the family rescued.
They're just like our dogs, pretty much.
At first I thought it was crazy, and then I warmed up to it because being with him, you realize there are a lot of other wild animals, and he's the craziest one of the wild animals.
At 3.5 years old, Wally weighs about 60 pounds, but he'll grow to be much larger. He's huge. He is very...
He looks like he's almost as tall as you.
Oh my gosh, he is.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'1".
You're an inch taller.
Even though he's a certified emotional support animal, Henny doesn't bring Wally everywhere, like restaurants, knowing his size might not be welcomed at the dinner table. But in other places, Henny says his Walligator is greeted with open arms.
Lowe's, there's quite a few in there that they get to hold him and stuff, and then they get in trouble with their boss. Yeah, you're supposed to be working, not playing with gators.
Swearing Wally wouldn't hurt a fly. Okay, maybe a fly, but not a person.
Lions and tigers and bears are... Alligators is really different than that. Alligators are very mild. They don't like biting people.
In fact, Henny says he's learning how much people benefit from having an alligator around.
We're getting letters from autistic children, from people with anxiety that have been around alligators. Yes, it works. It helped us.
And this gator won't be going anywhere anytime soon.
All right.
In Newberry Township, York County, Grace Griffaton, Fox 43 News.